I'm losing steam. Woo!
Hello.
Woo!
PJ.
Turn us horizontal. Can you turn us horizontal?
Better?
Dude, why can't you see both of us now?
I don't know.
I can't see you guys at all.
Do you have your phone locked or something?
Mm,
Because usually when people turn their phone horizontal, they can see both of us.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
oh, yeah. There we go. There
What?
we go.
Maybe you turned it the wrong way horizontal. Is that weird? Is that...
iPhone's trying
I
to
had
play
it.
games.
I had it locked. That was it.
iPhones are always trying to play games.
Yep.
PJ Nestler, welcome to Menace and the Man. Glad we finally got this configured.
So PJ Nestler,
Yeah.
for the people at home that don't know, he trained professional athletes of all sorts. He mainly enjoyed working with MMA or combat sports athletes the most, and now he is an XPT professional coach for Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese. Was that a proper intro?
Yeah. Well, I'm the director of performance for their company, so I don't
Okay.
train them specifically, but I
know that.
I work
but
with
yeah,
them. Yep.
Yeah, of XPT.
Yep.
Yes. When I read up about you, I've seen you worked with Major League Baseball players, I think NHL, NFL, like all at the top levels, on top of working with some UFC guys, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I work primarily with MMA, NFL, and NHL, and then I worked with a lot of jiu-jitsu as well. Yeah.
Okay. And now, what is it mostly? What type of stuff you doing with these guys?
Anything that would boost physical performance outside of technical skills. So my job was to get them figure out what they need and then help them get bigger, stronger, faster, more mobile, help with mindset stuff, anything I could do except for teach them the technical skills of the sport.
And so I would take a lot of stuff I would do with you and I'd run it back to my personal trainer. And things he said that I think you would agree with is for professional athletes, let's say you were a professional surfer or a professional MMA fighter, the training you would have them do isn't that much more crazy. It's not that much different.
In terms of the different sports or in terms of them versus a normal person?
Well, no, let's say a routine you would put me through wouldn't be that much different than maybe a pro surfer's, which is a totally different sport.
Yeah, you find that about 80% of the things are very similar because athletes need to be able to exert force. They need to be able to move well. They need to be able to manage their body in space. They need to be resilient to injury. So a lot of it is very general, and especially you get athletes of different, even at the highest level, what you tend to find is you assume that the higher levels you continue to work with, that these guys are going to be so much more dialed in that now you'll be able to really specialize. But you find that they've had mixed training backgrounds, especially in a sport like MMA, in particular, or jiu-jitsu, where they didn't come through collegiate athletics and professional athletics where they had real strength and conditioning coaches. So you find that you're spending a lot of time cleaning up all of the issues they've created over their athletic career, and then hopefully getting them to a solid baseline, building up some general capacities, and then you can start to really specialize once you get a little more specific.
Right. I mean, but like you said, 80% for example, me training versus an NFL player, he's going to do a lot more quick sprinting stuff and be way more you probably primary work on power and explosion versus me. I need that too with a combination of cardio.
Yeah, I'd say the big difference is they don't need nearly as much of the cardio, but even for you, a lot of the stuff we did when you came out was very similar to what I did with running backs, wide receivers, because they had to be strong, had to be explosive, but all relative to their body weight versus a lineman. Those guys need to be able to move a lot of weight. So they would train a little bit different. They need to be really, really strong, not necessarily as springy and explosive.
Right. So an MMA fighter or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, I don't call those guys fighters.
Practitioner.
Yeah.
Player.
So some people really trying to get cardio by doing these sprints and maybe long runs and versus I know some strength coaches are like, yo man, get your cardio doing your sport. Get your cardio doing what you do, like in your live goes, and work on just your strength and technique here. And then some coaches are like, yeah, we're gonna get strong here and we're gonna fucking hit some cardio here too. Like,
Yeah, it depends on the athlete, I think, because ideally, if you can get your conditioning in your sport training, that's the best scenario because it's going to be the most specific and you're going to train all the energy systems that you need. But what I find is most sport coaches don't understand the physical performance side. They understand the sport development, but they don't understand well, let's make sure that this mimics exactly what they're going to be doing in the fight. So, for example, most jiu-jitsu athletes I worked with, they go do their cardio in their training, but what they're really doing is 5 or 10-minute rounds with like 30 seconds or 60 seconds recovery. That's not the reality of a jiu-jitsu competition. So you're not training the body the right way to prepare yourself to compete. So, again, same for MMA. If you go to an MMA gym and you're just doing 10 rounds of sparring, you don't fight 10 rounds.
right.
So if you can understand how to prepare the energy systems the right way, if I was working together with the sport coach and saying, hey, on Friday's practice, I want to make sure we're going 5 hard rounds and they're perfectly set up so that we're taxing his energy systems properly, that'd be the best way to train. But the reality is, even in sports like the NFL, where they're a lot more, they've got coaches in every area that are well communicating, a lot more of a team approach than an MMA. Most MMA fighters, it's still pretty scattered. So a lot of times the strength and conditioning coach will have to do more conditioning. But for me, I rarely did conditioning with most of my MMA athletes because that was something they were just doing so much of all the time in
Right.
everything they did,
Right.
that you can't just keep pouring water into that cup and hope that it's going to keep filling higher.
Right. And that's one thing I remember, not necessarily talking about you, but you just said, and I was like, and Andy Galpin touched on it as well, is like MMA fighters have this tendency of just like every day, 100% kill myself.
Overtraining.
And then Andy's like, dude, that's CrossFit. That's what CrossFit is a 4-day competition of killing yourself for 4 days. Like, you have to fight one night for 15 minutes. Like, let's make your weekend. And I remember talking to you, and me and you went over a few of my, we had some FaceTimes where, yo, I want your training to be like this. You made a nice YouTube video on how to do it, how fighters should maybe consider doing their weekly training in terms of the thing is, and I know Andy had talked about this too. Andy Galpin is the head of exercise science at Cal State Fullerton, right?
Yeah, he's a professor and a researcher.
Yeah, because I know he wrote a book on like using too much technology, but where do you stand on measuring? Because I mean, like, if you ask me, hey, you tired today? The meter might say, like, you're good to go, but I feel like dog shit. And then there's that reading. Or, like, you'd be like, hey, how hard you go today? I'm like, I think 80%, but maybe it was more towards 95. I don't know. Or the other way, 75. I don't know.
Well, even we talked about that with Phil DeRue, where sometimes you'll see the reading and the MMA fighters have that mindset of, you know what, don't be a pussy. Or someone will be like, yo, don't be a pussy. You're training today,
Yeah.
And you'll overtrain. That's what we're talking about right
Right.
now, right?
Yeah, so the question is, what do I think about
Yeah, you
using
added too
technology?
much. Yeah.
Yes.
How do you read someone's? I know you had me jump on this pad, and I was like, and you're like, all right, man, you're fucking ready to rock and roll. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, I use a lot of different things to try to solve that problem. There's a lot of different technology you can use. The thing that we were doing specifically was looking at different type of jump heights on the jump pad, because I was fortunate to have that, and it's a good indicator of your neurological readiness. So if you came in and you had a 35-inch jump when you were at your best, and then you came in to me and your jump was 31 that day, and we did a few different jumps to look at some different numbers,
Yeah.
that would be a good indicator to me that your nervous system was not ready to exert maximum amount of speed and power. So that would just allow me to adjust. It doesn't mean we wouldn't train, but if the goal was we're doing a bunch of plyos and we were trying to be really fast and explosive, we're actually probably going to get slower that day because you're going to be not as explosive. But what I found was, the question, being able to ask the right questions, it usually tends to be the best. I mean, I used heart rate monitoring,
Yeah.
I used HRV monitoring, I used a
What's
CNS tap test.
What's HRV?
HRV is heart rate variability. So it's a measurement that you take. I use regular heart rate, where you woke up, take your heart rate every day, and they had my athletes send it to me, and I look for changes in that. But a lot of things can create changes in that. And my fighters would send it to me once to twice a week instead of every day. So it didn't help out.
Yeah.
HRV, it basically measures the variability between heartbeats, and a really high variability means a really high level of homeostasis or readiness. So if you were to measure your HRV and you had a score of 80 or 70 for the day, that would indicate to me that your body was stressed. And then I'd look back at, okay, well, you sparred yesterday, your HRV is 40. Maybe we need a recovery day, not a high intensity day. But those are expensive, and you have, every athlete has to buy them. And that's what a lot of like professional teams will use because they have the resources.
Right.
So I used the jump test for a while and it helped me out, but a lot of it was just to put some pieces together. I tried to get like 3 data points. So if I knew your heart rate, if I looked at your jump and then I asked you how you felt and what you did that day, I'm looking for a few of those data points to match up. If you said, hey, I think I'm good, I'm ready to get after it, but you kind of looked fatigued, and then we did the jumps and you were pretty slow on the jumps, then for me, I'm like, okay, we need to pump the brakes a little. But like you said, you can't just ask, hey, how do you feel? Because what you get every time is good, ready to go.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, when I was training and stuff like that, like, if someone was like, hey, man, like, maybe shouldn't do today, I'd be like, like, thank you, like, because I wasn't going to say it. And I remember sometimes, like, feeling like real shit, but just, like, trying to do my best and almost, like, not acting, but, like, I just couldn't fucking kind of do it, where, like, I'd get punched and, like, I'd be slow. I'm like, stop, like, you good, dude? And I'd be like, yeah, like, just let me.
Well, that's even what we talked about with Phil Daru. You had people around you, and it's just a habit of MMA fighters and coaches and whatnot, where it's like, nah, you're good. Get out there. You're good. You don't need a rest day. Today's training day.
But like, I mean, I think the East Coast like mentality kind of is way different than
West Coast, 100%.
You know. I mean, you use so many different, data points, and you really keep in contact with your guys, and I mean, I was on the East Coast, and me and PJ were sending back texts and like, hey, here's how I feel today, and da-da-da, and what do you think, and and even from across the country, I got really valuable information.
Yes. Oh, Menace has always sung your praises, PJ, and even right before we got to you, we were talking to Pat Cummins, how you guys actually linked up.
How we met.
And he was saying there's only a handful or so many people that he thanked and owed his professional career to, and you were one of those guys.
Yeah, Pat's a special athlete. But I think, to your point, Dennis, it is a very macho mindset in that sport. So I think one of the things that I tried to value a lot is I would see people who'd say, oh, you shouldn't be training. Oh, you got this injury. You need to take a week off. And like, that's just not going to happen. So what I tried to do is make sure that the athletes understood that I get that it's about being tough, and I'm never going to take that away from you. So I would never have you walk in the door and be like, oh, dude, come on. You're pretty slow today. Why don't you go home and just sleep? I'd be like, hey, man, here's what we're going to do. Come over here. So today, what I want to do is I want to adjust this, and this, and I want you to leave here really feeling great. And I would just try to take this like kind of professional prescription approach where the athlete felt like I wasn't taking something away from them. And I wasn't saying like, oh, you're a pussy, go sit on the foam roller while we go train. I just try to make it seem like, hey, this is a part of the plan. And like you said, they knew when they needed that. They just didn't want they didn't want me to say, well, how do you feel today? You want to just go home are you that tired? Because then they're going to feel like they're soft. But if I'm saying these things like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on your mobility. I really want to open your hips up today because we haven't had time to work on that. This is a great time. We can spend some time doing that. In their mind, they're going, oh, thank God.
I'm doing something.
I wasn't ready to get after it doing conditioning today, but I'm glad that we're doing something, and they can kind of tell themselves that this was part of the plan.
Yeah.
And that's something I found that worked really well with MMA athletes.
I've always loved when I had in my head oh fuck, I'm going in here, this is going to be hard, it's going to suck, and then they're like, hey, we're gonna take it easy today. Want to play dodgeball? I'm like, well, yeah, fuck yeah. I want to just do rub downs or play, you know what I mean? When I was wrestling in college, that was the best. But when you don't feel like doing anything, and then you get in there all right, today's gonna be super hard. You're like, it takes you even deeper, because it's gonna be. And hang on, very weird. There's been multiple times where I felt like shit, and then had some of the best practices ever. Yeah. I don't know what that maybe because I was fucking 19.
No, probably.
No, that happens. I mean, like you said, I've had guys who come in and they're like, I didn't sleep well last night. We ended up sparring this morning. We weren't supposed to. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I got to pump the brakes. We're going to make some changes. But I test out their jumps and they're super explosive. And then I'm like, why don't we get warmed up and we'll see how we feel. And we'll just kind of go through and we'll do this and this. And all of a sudden we start getting warmed up and like, man, I'm feeling strong today. Yeah. Can I go a little heavier on that? So, the mind and the body are not a perfect textbook. And that's why you can't just rely on, well, your HRV says this, so you're not training today, because you're going to have those outliers on both sides of the spectrum. So you got to that's where the art comes into, kind of putting this science into practice.
Yeah. The two things that I like digital stuff that I used for my training that I thought were really good is I used a sleep app on my phone, or I had the watch. So I had a sleep app on that just to see how my sleep was. Was I up? Was I moving? How many hours of sleep did I get? And sometimes if I was only got 6 and 7, and 3 hours were shit, all right, let's see. And I would check my resting heart rate, my sleeping heart rate.
Yep.
If it was higher, because I fucking busted my ass the next day, all right. And then the UFC, the UPI gave me that fucking thing you put on your forehead and your palm, and it tells you your readiness to be able to train. That actually for me was actually kind of spot on, but I know for my buddy it was way off because he has an enlarged heart, and me and him have different muscles. When I go, I explode and I fucking empty it. So I think it was easy for that to detect it, where he's a longer, not as explosive guy, where he could go very hard and fucking tax his lungs, but his muscles maybe he was this, where I was and maybe the calories we burnt were the same, but it would be saying he's ready to go, but he's like, man, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Which could fuck with your brains.
Yeah.
That thing that's an HRV monitor. What you're talking about, the Omega Wave.
Yes, the Omega Wave.
It measures some other things too, but it's an HRV.
Okay.
Is one of the key data points on that.
But I was pretty good, and it was weird because sometimes it would say in the morning it would be you're pretty burnt. And I'm like, all right, let me take it easy, and then maybe I'd hit a hard workout, like a lift or something like that, and then it would be even better at night. I was like, that's weird.
Maybe the workout yourself kind of primed your nervous system. Kind of.
Okay.
Sometimes you come in and you do. I mean, we would do sometimes a pretty high intensity, not crazy, but pretty high intensity lift before we did some other stuff. And people think, well, I don't want to do heavy deadlifts before I'm about to go do jumping and sprinting. But the reality is, sometimes it takes your nervous system and everything to get woken up. So you've got to feed it some higher intensity input, and then all of a sudden it's ready to start firing at 100% when it was only at 70% before.
Right. And then also I was, in fight camp, so my nutrition was like on point. Could that have any effect on why, like poop in the morning at night? Like, yo, you're good to go if you want to train again.
Yeah, you're probably getting fueled up throughout the day. Maybe something just with your sleep cycles as well. You just were someone that the morning wasn't your most ideal time, and
Got you. Okay.
start to peak later in the day. I think actually the ideal time now, they're saying, based on circadian rhythms and stuff, is actually closer to like 3-4 o'clock for training. So that could be where your nervous system and everything started to wake up more. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that can be a factor.
Is there truth that your testosterone is highest in the morning?
Yes, your testosterone, I believe, is the highest in the morning. Although that thing I was talking about training around 3-ish, I can't remember why that is.
It probably helps with your sleep later.
Yeah, it's a good question actually, because now that I think about it, your cortisol is highest in the morning, and cortisol and testosterone have an inverse relationship. So usually when your cortisol is high, your testosterone is low. So I don't know if testosterone is highest in the morning. It's something I've believed, but I don't know if it's actually true or not.
Because I remember in college, we'd be like lifting at like 6:30 in the morning, and like, I don't know, someone was like, dude, this like, why do we like lift in the morning? And the coach was like, it's when your testosterone's the highest. Like, don't be a pussy. Fucking lift the weight.
Yeah.
No, not lift. Move the weight. That was his
Yeah.
thing. Move the weight. I don't care how you do it. Move it.
Yeah. I think I believe the same thing from probably college football or something. And now that you mention that, I don't remember ever seeing any research to back that. Your cortisol is highest in the morning, though, and cortisol is stress hormone that would give you energy to train. That's what wakes you up.
Huh.
And then maybe it would be better because your testosterone would start to elevate later in the day as your cortisol goes down. So
like
it would
around
stimulate.
3.
Yeah, maybe that would stimulate recovery better, which is the thought process. But the reality is there's no perfect science to the best time of day to train, because people have different cycles. People have different times their body's optimal. There is such a thing as morning people and night people. And you may be a person whose system is most optimal at 7 a.m. and I may be a person who's most optimal at 11.
Yeah.
Well, here, quick before we lose you, PJ, we know you have another conversation you said you had to get on. Are you working with particular gyms? How do you find fighters? The fighters find you? How does that work out?
Well, I'm not working with any fighters right now. I do a little consulting, but I'm not actually training people in the gym anymore. Now that my role's kind of transitioned more into education, you're looking at my my office these days. But when I was working with a lot of athletes, most fighters would find me through fighters I was working with. Dr. Galpin was a good resource for me. I know a lot of fighters would reach out to him looking for training, and he's a scientist, so he wouldn't do the training himself. He would help them find people. So he would refer a lot of guys to me. That's how I got connected with Pat and Kylan, and then ended up getting connected with Dennis and a handful of other athletes. And then from there, it was athletes kind of talking to each other.
How long have you been in this new role that you're in?
I've been working since 2017. I've been working with XPT, and then now I work with the parent company of XPT. So I'm actually working with a handful of other pretty exciting brands. Some of them with fighters that I can't mention yet, but some pretty exciting stuff. But most of my work with the individuals who are training to compete is more consulting. I have a few fighters that I talk to here and there and help them plan their training camps. I've got some guys who come over to my house and do recovery sessions like saunas and ice baths and breath work. And we work on mindset stuff, because that's a lot of what I've been digging into with XPT. We've been working on mindset and understanding that from elite athletes as well as elite special forces operators. So I've been taking a lot of those lessons I've been learning and distilling them and trying to teach them to some of the athletes I consult with.
Because, I mean, that's the last thing I was going to get into. I mean, it's not signed. There's no way to measure it, but, like, I remember meeting with you, and we started going over breathing. Like, after your workout, like, shutting the nervous system down, breathing in the morning, breathing at night, like, fucking exercising your lungs without actually having to tax them.
Yeah. And that's a lot of what I do, is researching that. And there actually is a lot of ways to quantify it and test it. We've got a lot of ways to look at it, and just another variable to play with from a physical performance standpoint, but also from a mental performance. I actually travel around and teach a lot of stuff, breathing techniques, but a lot of it is together with mindset techniques. And I did
stress.
Understanding stress, understanding performance anxiety, understanding, how to manage your body and your nervous system, because breathing is like a remote control to your nervous system. So when you can understand how those things are linked together, it's just another opportunity to optimize that. And I find, I did a workshop for a group of NHL goalies up in Canada a few months ago, and one of them was a 15-year NHL veteran. He's like, and we were talking mindset stuff, sports psychology, but from the framework of breathing. And he was like, I've been playing the NHL for 15 years and nobody's ever talked to me about these things. And so there's some really good opportunities there that I think a lot of athletes can explore.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because it's helped me so much. But the thing is like, everyone thinks about like the actual physical, doing something, sweating, being out of breath is like, hey, this is how I'm going to get better. This is how I'm going to get stronger. This is how I'm going to get faster. Like, dude, there are so many, like, go fucking sit in an ice bath for 10 minutes. Like, you're going to recover. And, like, dude, there's, like, then you have to get in your breath work, too. Like, you can sit there and struggle, and, like, you're going to get some recovery out of that, but, like, you get some mental process where, like, I'm good here. This is uncomfortable, but, like, I'm fine. And you can breathe in to that area and relax. I remember I went out to Montauk. XPT did what would you call it? A seminar?
It was like a retreat.
A retreat out in Montauk, and I went out both days, and Laird Hamilton ran me through this breathing exercise. Not just me, the group of people. And it was like, inhale, exhales, holds. And I remember one time I was holding my breath, and I was like doing the like, but I'm like, yo, I'm a professional athlete. There's average Joes in here who are probably holding their breath. And I was like, I just stuck with it. And then next thing you know, I was exhaling all my air out and holding my breath for like 2 minutes. And I got this like fucking crazy, like almost high, where I was like, dude, this is unreal. Unreal. And I meant to fucking, because I recorded like a little bit of it and I shut it off. I wish I recorded the whole thing so I had his cadences of it. Because it wasn't like, I have some apps where you do breathing and stuff like that, but like this one was, I don't know what happened.
Well, dude, do you have the XPT app?
I don't.
We have exactly what you're looking for. I've got a whole bunch of pre-recorded breathing things of me, Laird, Gabby, that just walk you through exactly like what you went through there. But we also have them for specific purposes, like pre-workout, post-workout, all that kind of stuff. So that was the goal, because a lot of people would say, hey, I wish I had you to just guide me through this for 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, well, let's do that.
I got to get it.
You got to get that.
But
the breathing stuff's super cool, because you can, when you feel how intense those sensations are and you feel how powerful you can change your physiology with just the breath, then I think it opens up the thought process of like, well, what else can I do if it's this powerful? And the thing I always highlight for people is, if it's that powerful to create these sensations, what do you think's happening when you're not paying attention to it and things are going wrong? Because you're doing it all the time anyway, and it's creating negative effects. You're just not aware of them. So you can't change them if you haven't become aware of them. So it's a really powerful thing.
So this is, if I can get anything out of this right now, because like I get it. But the thing is like, yeah, breathing's easy, but we start holding your breath and adding a little like, stress, and like it definitely takes energy to like, all right, relax, stop. Like, let your shoulders down, relax, take the time, right? But sometimes you're pissed, you're like, I don't fucking, and like when I talk to people, like take a deep breath. I see you're jacked up. Take a deep breath from me. Or like maybe a girlfriend or my mom or what, like, yo, like, dude, it's not the end of the world. Like, do me a favor. Take fucking 8 breaths, 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out, and let me know how you feel. But like, people are like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, you don't like, how do I make him like, I promise you, you will feel better. How do I fucking tell them that without, like, how else can I say that?
I think people have to learn it outside of the moment of stress. Because if the thing is creating the stress for them, it's like if you came to me and said, I've got huge performance anxiety before I fight. And I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Next time, right before you fight, we're going to try this thing. And you're like, before you fight, you're already freaking out. So we need to practice it. You got to come to me and we got to practice. We got to implement, and you got to feel some of it. And it might be, I always start super small. So I give people really simple things they can do. And then when they start doing those in these like low moments of stress, all of a sudden they start to realize, and that's where like something like the ice bath comes into play, is you put people in there and then you teach them the breathing that calms them down. And then you go, hey, guess what? We just created a moment of stress and anxiety where you were tense. You couldn't breathe. You were losing control of your thoughts. And then we use the breath to get control of your thoughts and to calm your body down. So let's take that tool and let's apply that to other times when you lose control of your thoughts and your body. And we start to practice those techniques. So you kind of, but it's all about meeting people where they're at first and giving them these little tools and allowing them to feel it. But that's why people know it intuitively. That's why everywhere you see, if someone's stressed out, the first thing they say is take a deep breath, because it is that reset point that allows you to switch over from your emotional brain into your rational brain. There's so much magic that can happen when you do it properly. But we excuse it. I mean, it's like everybody knows they should be meditating, but how many people actually do?
Right.
Yeah. We want to do the thing that's really hard. But you mentioned something I think it's really important for any MMA athletes or combat athletes that are listening, which was we want to do the thing that's hard. We want to push really hard. We want to train hard all the time. But what I used to do all the time is I would draw out for my athletes what their day looked like, what time they wake up, what time they train, what time they do this. And I would map that out. And I'd go, okay, well, so you look at this. In total, you're training a lot on Monday, but your total training hours is 6 hours. There's 24 hours in a day. You're training for 6 of them.
That's a lot.
Do you really? Oh, yeah, that's a shit ton of hours. But I'm just saying at the high end, like most guys probably training more for 4. But, let's say they have 2 practices that are 90 minutes to 2 hours. Let's say it's 4 hours.
That's still a lot for me.
If you're doing that for X number of hours a week, I would always try to highlight, what are you doing outside of that? Do you think Tom Brady just shows up, goes to practice for 2 hours, and then he's like, all right, cool, I'm the best quarterback in the world?
I think he sold his. I think
he might.
I think he sold his soul to the devil. So
well, at this point, yeah. But before, people like that, they're up in the morning, they're doing their mobility, they're taking care of their nutrition, they're watching game film and learning strategy. They're treating it like a job. There's no job in the world. There's no really good job where you just show up for 10 hours and get paid a ton of money and you're one of the best in the world at it. So I would try to help athletes understand that you have to take a more professional approach. It's not just show up to practice and train really hard. Every fucking guy in the gym does that, and they're not all UFC world champions. So if you want to be able to get to this level, you need to take a more professional approach to what you do inside and outside of the gym. And that's where opportunities like meditating or breathing or ice baths or mobility work or watching, fight tape and learning from watching fights a lot. Those are all opportunities to take a more professional approach and improve your skill set, because there's only so many hours you can go 100%.
Right. That's one thing when I look back at my career and how I did things, I was like, I looked at it so professional, as I'm a very like, let's do this right now. Let's like off the jump, like, okay, let's just do this, And sometimes I like doing that, but like my training camp was so, I would draw it out, and it wasn't like you're like, yo man, here's what you're gonna do, or like I designed my every week myself to the best that I thought for myself, and not everyone agreed with it, which sometimes would be like, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but like it was wake up, breathe. Breakfast was almost like a workout in my head of like, yeah, this isn't what you want to eat, but you want to win, so you're going to eat this. Then it was train. All right, train hard. Hey, after train, get some kind of recovery. That was like, I try to put that in there. All right, you got to get a second session in. Bang. All right, we got to, make sure you get your lunch. Sorry, I skipped lunch. That was another like workout where, after 2 hours, I'm like, man, I'm fucking hungry, but I'm not supposed to eat for another hour. That's what I have written here. You know?
Yeah.
Eat. And then, all right, second workout. All right, let's get home. Let's try and maybe lose a little bit of weight. Dinner. Let's try and get an ice, you know? Hey, I got to call my sports psychologist. Like, I don't really feel like talking to him right now because, like, it just... But after I did, after an ice bath, like, the thought of an ice bath, I'm like, fuck me. Like, anything. Can somebody figure it, like, can you give me a reason not to do it? And if you gave me anything, like, yep, I would run with that, you know? But I'd do the ice bath. I'd feel better afterwards. And then, like, the next thing, like, all right, fuck, I have to cook dinner. Fuck, I gotta grill it. It's not gonna be delicious.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I think about a fight camp, it was like, fuck. Because I remember when I first started dieting, it was fun. But I guess after 8 years, you're like, all right, this is for the birds.
What'd you say when you first started dieting?
Oh, my God. I was like, man, I'm fucking jacked. I can eat just chicken and broccoli. Like, that's fine. I'm so ripped. I'm 24. You know? It was like a different... Sometimes I wish I could go back to, like, the younger mindset that I had. And I try to... And I think that's why I retired. So I'm like, man, the drive isn't there anymore. You know, like...
Yeah, it's a job at that point.
Yeah. I took all the... Because they were like, oh, man, how many times you train a day? I'm like, twice. Like, how many hours? Like, 2? Like, that's it? You're like, man, you have an easy job. I'm like, bitch...
You have no idea what I went through.
It's
for those
24 hours. Like when you go Friday with the bar, like I'm like sitting in a sauna at my house, like fuck. Maybe I get some ice cubes later. I gotta call PJ because I've sold my wood. I know it's for my benefit, but like I don't fucking feel like it because I just want to shoot myself, kinda. You know, shit. Yeah.
Well, luckily you didn't shoot yourself during that amazing career that you had.
Oh, shut up.
So, PJ, we hope we didn't run too far over with you. What it was Cummins. Cummins and Menace were talking about riding bikes and going to Korean saunas together.
That's recovery, dude.
Recovery. It was recovery.
I like it.
Recovery.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I appreciate you guys having me. It was awesome chatting with you.
But you're obviously a genius.
No, I want more.
Yeah, we'd love to have you again. We'd love to even see if we can block off like an hour or something where you could just help men out there figure it out, you know, help them figure out their fitness, myself included. Menace,
fat fuck, dude.
I used to be skinny. Menace obviously has endless questions for you, and you can just keep reeling them off, but we don't want to keep you all night.
Yeah, let's do it again. I'd love to jump on with you guys.
PJ, where can people find you on the internet?
And the only thing I put out is on my Instagram is Coach PJ Nestler. And then I put a lot of content out on XPT stuff. So xptlife.com or at XPT Life on social media.
YouTube channels, no more.
I still have my YouTube channel, but I don't post anything on it. Now that I work with XPT, I don't keep up any of that.
Got you.
I don't have my own business anymore.
Got you. Still great content on there, no?
Yeah, all the videos are still on there, so I still have a ton of content on there.
How does Menace get the XTP app?
Go to the apps and press an XPT.
Yeah, go to the App Store, download XPT Life.
Free, or you got to pay for it?
The app is free, but there is a paid version that's got more content on it.
Okay.
But there's a bunch of stuff on the free version as well.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get you hooked up, Dennis. I don't know if I can pull those kind of strings. Right. I'm not that important.
Right.
But
I'll see if I can short. You sound like you know what you're talking about, so I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that think you're the guy.
Yeah, I'm sure I could get you hooked up if you want to try out some of the breathing. You just got to let me know which ones you do and which ones you like, so we can keep making more of those.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, PJ, for the time. We appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody, be sure to go check him out. PJ Nestler,
whoop, whoop.
XTP. What is it called? XTP Fitness, XTP. XPT.
Yeah, XPT Life is what it's called.
XPT Life. Yep. PJ Nestler, thank you again for the time.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Peace,
Talk
bro.
to you soon.
So, one of my favorite things and worst things I love and hate about PJ is, like, you know how I'm like a funny, outgoing guy? he's so professional. Like I'd be in there like lifting with him, and I would throw out some jokes, and he wouldn't like he wouldn't even be like, all right, now this. But so I loved it because like we're scheduled to work out for 1 hour. We work out for exactly 1 hour. We didn't fuck around.
He didn't laugh at any of my jokes.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, you're fucking so cool. Like, let's not be so professional. Let's like fuck around. Let's like
good and bad.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I would say more good out of that.
He's like a damn robot, and like I'm like, man, I respect that about you. I can't break you.
But
I can't break your character.
When you have him outside of the gym, he's very personable. He seems.
He was still a damn robot right there.
He was?
Yeah. What do you mean? He didn't laugh to shit. Well, the sauna.
Nah, but that's he was on here to throw out some information. So
Right, but but
time,
that's how he is.
Octagon jitters, if you will. Menace and the Man jitters there. He's first time on the show. You need to feel what we were about.
No
whatnot.
chance. That's the
him?
man. Yeah.
Right.
And hang on, but I love that about him. He's a straight shooter.
That's what
I mean, I don't even know if he has feelings. I don't even think anything's funny.
That's what I like about you. You're a straight shooter.
He's probably not. He probably doesn't get sad. Nothing makes him happy.
He's one of those. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
No.
But that's like actually funny to him. You get that little reaction out of him.
He'd probably be like, you did that because your serotonin levels spiked.
You see him laughing, his serotonin's high right now.